In the 4th century BC, Greek philosopher Plato describes Atlantis as a splendid island nation whose residents were doomed. Was there actually such a civilization that was completely wiped out? What is the myth of the lost island kingdom really trying to tell us? Atlantis, the magnificent island nation. It is said to have consisted of several rings, at its heart, Poseidon's temple. It was home to the most advanced culture of its time. But the Atlanteans were also arrogant, so the gods decided to punish them. Atlantis was completely annihilated in a dramatic catastrophe.
The myth of Atlantis is important to us today because it's the story of a once highly developed culture which was lost, which has utterly disappeared. It's a story of hubris, it's a story of punishment, and in the modern world in which we think we know so much, we celebrate our achievements, well, it serves as a pretty powerful warning.
We can read about the legend in Plato's work. In 360 BC, he describes Atlantis as a splendid island nation which had ruled over the entire Mediterranean region 9,000 years earlier, with untold wealth and unparalleled power. The story about the end of this civilization has enthralled generations worldwide. To this day, many people are not only looking for the location, but also the superhuman power that Atlantis is said to emit. SS Chief Heinrich Himmler spent large sums trying to prove that the Teutons descended from the Atlanteans. He hoped archaeologists would find evidence of ancient Aryans in Atlantis. Their search took them as far as Tibet, but they left empty-handed. The search for Atlantis is also fueled by the discovery of another city. Troy was long thought to be a myth described in the Iliad by the Greek poet Homer. In 1870, Heinrich Schliemann finds the ancient city in today's Turkey. Can Atlantis be found too?
We have so many stories about Atlantis. It is a magical undersea world. And if you were the archaeologist to discover that, like the discovery of Troy, you would go down in history.
But is there any truth to the myth? Did Atlantis really exist? If it did, are there any traces? Greece, the island of Santorini. This might have been the location of Atlantis. Its ring-like structure is the result of volcanic activity that has shaped the local landscape for thousands of years. Geologist Evi Nomiko is familiar with the stories about Atlantis. The island attracts myths like a magnet.
Before 3,600 years, at this place, there was a small island with the same geometry, with the same composition, lava composition, and at the top of this volcano, a city was built on.
Santorini is located on an ancient volcano. When it erupted thousands of years ago, it wreaked havoc. The crater became clogged with boulders and eventually exploded. A natural catastrophe, just like Plato describes. Scientists are looking for evidence in the sea surrounding the crater. Using state-of-the-art technology, they're examining the volcanic rocks underwater.
This is a small robot. This is a small ROV. We call it as Jason. And we will explore the seafloor very close to Nea Kameni just to see the morphology of the lava that is cooling down on the seafloor. Okay.
8 engines and 3 cameras. The robot replaces the divers and provides high-resolution images. It passes by lava solidified a long time ago. Just like the islands themselves, the volcanic eruption shaped the sea floor around it. And at last, a discovery.
6 meters?
Underwater stairs. Could they belong to a former harbor? An entrance to the city of Atlantis? Evi Nomiko is one step closer to finding Atlantis. But she will need to conduct more dives to find out whether these steps are man-made or a product of nature.
I believe that there was a magic city just in the middle of the caldera, and that city has been destroyed completely. But we need to search more and explore more. And when we find some evidence from the seafloor, not something that we will find on land, then I will be completely sure that Santorini was Atlantis.
But something doesn't add up in the Santorini theory. According to Plato, Atlantis is located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, behind Gibraltar. US researcher Richard Freund is convinced that he will be able to unearth Atlantis in this region. Following Plato's descriptions, he's got his eyes set on southern Spain. His search takes him to the Doñana National Park. He believes today's dunes cover the once important harbor and the ring-shaped islands. He suspects the coastline has shifted over the centuries.
We are at ground zero for Atlantis.
Freund visits a 1920s excavation site. The dig was never finished. Today, the park is protected. It is impossible to conduct new excavations. A rock formation is sticking out of the ground, maybe a wall.
We're going to measure this edge, and then I want to just measure this edge. This is a right angle. There are no right angles in nature. This is something that was man-made.
If his theory is correct, this wall might have once belonged to the powerful city of Atlantis.
There should be no major stone like that in this entire area. And yet it's there.
But so far, there's no evidence corroborating Freund's theories. Maybe Atlantis will be discovered one day. Until then, it remains the great myth of a lost civilization.